Hey guys, in this video, we will talk about a very important, often misunderstood, and underestimated topic that is called regression testing. We will talk a little about the definition, but the core focus of this video will be on an automation tool offered by Microsoft called Regression Suite Automation Tool, or RSAT. Just like to mention that this tool only is designed to work with one of the Microsoft product called Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation. It doesn't work with any other product at this point of time. Another disclaimer, this video is a pre-recorded version, which I made for one of my customer. I find it lazy to record it all over again. So I've reused the content came from that video and I've tried to make it as neutral as possible. So let's get on to it. Yeah, this is the agenda slide. I will be actually talking about in concept what regression testing is. And of course, that we need to understand that concept a little bit before we talk about what that tool is bringing to the table here. And let's talk about that right now, because rest of the things which we can touch upon later. Uh, I think most of you might already be aware if you are into this testing space, but if you're not, let me just tell you that regression testing in concept is testing for something which you already know in the first place that it was working. So you might be wondering, why do you need this testing? The concept is that, let's say you have rolled out a new functionality and you have built that functionality after some effort, and we can safely assume that as a part of that effort, you would have done some initial testing, some integration testing, some other functional testing, detailed one, happy flow testing, boundary testing to make sure that functionality works perfectly. And then you have deployed that onto your production or live environment, right? Uh, and that is not regression testing, by the way. Regression testing comes in play when something somewhere else has happened, and you have a suspicion that that something which has happened somewhere else might have impacted something which in this functionality which I've already tested in the past. So you just have to rerun that testing again, just to make sure that whatever change which has happened somewhere else in the application, that has not broken something which you already have built before and it was working before. So that is what the regression testing in concept is. Testing something which you already know that it was working, but you just want to make sure that you do this regression test and you make sure that it is still working. So that's the main concept. And automating something like this perfectly makes sense, because you might not want to automate something which you are testing for the first time, because you don't know how to test it. You don't know how, in what scenarios it will break, and in what scenarios it might work, right? So you know this better when all of this has become like a mundane sort of a task, and you're just doing it. I mean, if, in the absence of an automation tool, you basically have to invest a lot of energy to be doing that, and that is where you will need to bring in something like an automation tool here, right? So yeah, that's the a bit on the definition. We can certainly talk about the definition later if anybody has any questions. So let's straight away get into it. So the rest of the agenda, if you see in the screen, is that I'll be talking about. I'll be showing you a few diagrams to tell you about the concept. I'll have a few snapshots for the actual tool as well. Well, actually, I'll be showing the tool itself later as well. There is something called Azure DevOps, which basically works in connection with RSAT. So I will be giving you some brief overview of that as well. And then we will go into the demo, basically. The demo will be broken into two pieces. The first part is when I'm just showing you some pre-written, pre-recorded test cases, and I'll be just running them, just to sort of kind of prove a point that this is how the tool looks like and this is how it runs, right? And also we'll see some results in Azure DevOps for that run as well. And in the later part, I'll actually be composing a test case as well using the access we have, right? And then we will see the results for that as well. Towards the end, we will talk about a few other things as well. I don't have to extensively talk about licenses, but I still have included that as a part of my presentation. And then towards the end, I'll be talking about some next steps after the presentation as well. All right, so let's kick in. Okay. So this is the first context diagram, and I think we need to understand this to be able to understand the whole picture better, right?
So as you can see in this screen, you can see four boxes. The left one being your FNO or finance operation environment or 365 environment. Then we have LCS in the middle. Most of you are familiar with that, so I don't need to explain that. We have got Azure DevOps at the bottom. Some of you might be familiar with that, but some of you might not. But I can just tell you that that's another portal which Microsoft has. Sorry for the background noise. It's another portal which Microsoft has, which allows you to manage a lot of things. Like, it can actually become an alternative of Jira because you're using Jira right now. And it can do a lot of other things as well, which we'll talk about later. And then this right side, this is that tool basically, which that which is called RSAT, and it's a client, as it is saying. It is basically it's a desktop application which sits on your machine, and that talks to the finance operation environment, and it talks to the Azure DevOps environment, and that's how it works. By the way, just for your reference, I've taken this snapshot from one of the, I think 2 or 3 years back. I can kind of I took so that is when this tool was being launched, right, and was being pitched by Microsoft as a regression testing alternative. So I've taken this diagram from them from that period, and for a particular reason, because I'll come to that reason, because I wanted to show you a little bit of a history of this as well. So when originally this tool was pitched, as you can see in this diagram as well, that the thing started with we had a task recording made in FNO or finance operation or your ERP. That task recording would go into your LCS as a BPM component. There's a thing called BPM, if you're not aware. In LCS, there is a thing called business process modular, or you can call it BPM. So the task recording would go into LCS. And then from LCS, because LCS is also connected to your Azure DevOps, the task recording will go into Azure DevOps as well in the project. And then when this is done, everything is done, and then RSET will connect to your FinOps environment, and on the other side, it connects to your Azure DevOps. Basically, the task recording has become a test case, and then test case is coming from Azure DevOps into this desktop client, and this desktop client, which is RSAT, is running those test cases onto your FinOps environment. So that's how it used to work. So it's a little bit different now. It is a little bit easier from that perspective now. Let me just show you. So yeah, we don't have this layer of LCS anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot follow this path. You can still follow that path, but Microsoft has made it a little bit easier. So this layer is kind of removed. So what you do right now is that you basically can just create your task recordings into your ERP environment, and you can directly import them into your Azure DevOps, right? And that's how it works now. So this whole hierarchy of steps is completely removed. So it is very much easier as compared to the past. So now what happens is that, I mean, this is pretty same, that these arrows are still are relevant, that your test client, which is your RSAT, will still do the same thing. It will get the test cases data from Azure DevOps. It will run the test cases into your finance operation. And then whatever is the result, like the failures or the passages, those results gets posted into Azure DevOps as well. And this is where you get all the information. We'll see all that. So don't worry if you don't fully understand that, but I just wanted to show and make a point that we are not using LCS anymore. All right, let's move forward. All right. So this is a bit of a snapshot of that RSAT tool. I will show you that tool anyway, but I thought I set some context here. As you can see, I'm on the left side. I've actually chosen to show a desktop, desktop icon, because this whole thing basically gets installed on your PC as an application. So this is the denotion of that. This is so you double click that, and this kind of a client opens, and this shows you all the test cases. We will go into that further. But if you notice these test cases, I mean, some of them are like I've just created as a part of this demo. If you see at the bottom, there are like 4 test cases, like create PO, confirm PO, receive against PO, and create an invoice, right? So so these test cases are basically shown like this. And on the left side, there is the hierarchy or the foldering of this test cases basically is being shown. Those foldering, there are 2 levels to it. There is one level is called test plan, and the other level is called test suite. Anyway, let's move forward. So we will see this in the actual demo itself, right? Just wanted to also show to you that uh, this desktop tool has these test cases loaded from Azure DevOps, but it has also a few components which sit on your PC as well. So, for example, I'm showing to you this create PO test case on your desktop. I mean, you will define a location on, and that location basically that test case related files are sitting, and mostly those files are I mean, these are a bit technical, but just for your reference, there is an XLS file, which is an Excel file, which is a little bit of an importance for you. That is to help you to parameterize your test case, which essentially means that you have recorded the test case beforehand, but there are a few things which you have made, you have made them as a parameter. For example, you're creating a PO, and then you want to input a quantity, right? So that quantity, as a part of your recording, you said that I'm going to put a quantity of 2, right? But then later on, when you want to test, but when you want to run that test case again, you want to put quantity 4. So that doesn't mean that you have to record the whole thing again. You will just put that as a parameter, and then you will just change that parameter in this Excel file, and then the tool will run and it will take the quantity, the new quantity, whatever you put, right? So yeah, so this is, I'm just showing you a snapshot of that parameter file as well. This is a pre-populated file. You don't have to do anything. You just have to enter the values in, and we'll see all that as well. I just wanted to make a point that the architecture of that tool, as how it sits on your PC, look like this. It has an application, it has a folder, or a root folder, or a service folder, whatever you want to call it, where it sits with all the information, and then some of them are actually relevant for the testers who are going to run this tool as well. So that's the parameter file. I think, yeah, that's it. Let's move on. Okay, that's the screen which shows you the Azure DevOps, which is not a desktop application. That's a web-based tool or web-based portal. As I said before, some of you might already be familiar with that, but you might be not looking into this test plan module on the left side, right? So you can see there are a few modules. The colored icons are the modules, and the uh, non-colored icons are the sub modules or sub menus, right? You might be one. Uh, uh, um, you might have seen this other modules here, the boards and overview before, and the pipelines and repos. But this is essentially about this test plan module. So this is how within this test plan module everything looks. As you would have seen, if I show you the reference, all these test cases which are shown here is shown here as well, pretty much same, right? And then this is also where you can also read the test cases, the description as well if you want. For example, if I show you this PRIO test case is actually detailed here. It is basically very, very self-explanatory. It has all the steps mentioned which are going to be run when you run this test case. And just for your sort of recapping on your understanding, there's these test cases, you don't write it yourself in your plain English. It basically comes from the task recording which you make in finance operation. And this next snapshot is basically kind of showing to you that if you're familiar with this screen, the screen with the black border, this is finance operation or your ERP screen. So if you're making task recording, whenever you're making task recording, so this is how your instructions are recorded step by step, step 1, step 2, etc. Right? So the same thing gets imported into this, it becomes your test case. So that's how the whole system works. That's another context. Again, I'm trying to not make it highly technical. It is just for an end user who is trying to use this tool for the first time. So I'm just trying to set the context for them. All right, I think let's move on. Okay, so this is where we will get into the demo itself, right? So I'll stop my this screen and we will get into the system and we will run those two scenarios. The left scenario basically is the scenario where we run the previously defined test cases, and the right one is basically when we will create new test cases. Let's run the left one first. So yeah, just for introducing, so I haven't made this very complex. It's a very simple kind of a scenario in which I'm going to be creating a PO. Like I have already recorded, but the system will be creating a PO. It will confirm that PO. It will do some receipting or receipts against that PO, and it will ultimately do an invoice against that PO as well. And that's what it will do. And later on, when we will do the same thing, we will create the PO and we will confirm the PO. I think, yeah, I've just made it simple. So just to prove a point that this is how you do it. Okay, so I'll just stop this here. And yeah, so this is the tool, the screen itself. Um, I could have actually gone into the various different screens it has. but I think that will waste a lot of time. So I will not do that. I will just straight away go into the demo part of it or the run part of it. So this is the tool. This is how it looks. And as you can see, there is some hierarchy. The foldering shown here, you can open this and you can come here. It is a little bit different to the snapshots because I've kind of organized it a little bit different here. These are my test cases, which I'm talking about. You just check all of them to run in conjunction, or you basically just run them one by one. In our case, we will just run them all in conjunction because these are all connected as well. And I'll show you how to connect the different test cases with each other. Like, for example, when I talk about connection, if you're wondering, let's say you create a PO and ultimately, and that is your first test case. In the next test case, you have to confirm that PO. Means that when you're confirming a PO, you will need to know which PO you need to confirm, right? So the output of the first test case, which is the PO number, you will need to somehow dynamically know at the time of running your confirm PO test case that this is the number of the PO which you're going to be picking for the confirmation, and then you will run that confirmation flow. So yeah, so that is called the connection. That you have two different test cases. You will get an outcome in a form of a number, and you will dynamically input that number, input the output of the previous test case as an input of the next test case. And that's how you connect these two together. Or I would say stitch those test cases together. Yeah. Let's, without further ado, we will just run the test case now. If you're wondering about what is this valid column and results column, so we will talk about that later. When you will see when I will run that, the results column will be vanished. So this is the last time when I ran that, right? So this is just showing you the result here. The valid column is basically when you create the test case for the first time, by default, the valid column is empty. So you do a few certain steps to make it valid, and then you run that. But yeah, we will just run the tool right away. So these are all checked. And when I click run, by the way, I will just leave the screen. I will not use the system, and it will automatically open the browser, and it will start running the test case. All right, let's do that. Okay, click run. So now it will be, if you see at the bottom as well, the bottom left, I mean, it is showing you some messaging here as well. It will do some stuff. So now it is all being controlled by the tool itself. So it is opening the finance operation environment. By the way, I did not mention this is not domains environment. This is another test environment we have here in Barhead, internal to Barhead. So we are using that at the moment. So yeah, it's going. So it's in the first test case, right? So it is basically creating a PO here, right? You can have different screens as well. I mean, when I use it, I think I'll not disturb. So you'll see that what is being done. So a header is being created. A particular vendor has been selected. Now an item is being selected. And yeah, this is the item. And then it will put some quantity. If I remember, I put 6 or something like that, or maybe 20. I don't remember, but there was a quantity it will put. Might not fully show you because it is working in the background as well. And ultimately, it will decide that whatever happened, it actually failed or passed that test case. I mean, the messaging shown in that command prompt was looking a little bit scary, but it was actually passing that. And we'll get to that. So you see the result, it is showing tick. So that means that it has made the test case as successful. The next one is running now, which is the confirmation part of it. And this is where I was talking about, connecting the two test cases. I think the previous PO would have been given a particular ID. So this was the ID. So this, 00 and 1618. So I did not input that as a hard-coded value. It has picked that value from the previous test case because that became as an outcome of that previous test case. So now it is running that. So I think it was a confirmation step. Yes, it was confirmation. Let's see, it was successful. Okay, this is successful as well. So now it will be receiving that PO as well. I think one of that will fail if I remember correctly, but we will see. That's fine. I mean, the point of this demo is not to be worried about whether it fails or passes. The point is to just show how this tool looks and works. And especially in the cases of failures, how does it show in the system, and how will you basically later on track that information, because that's the point of doing this regression testing in an automated fashion. Anyway, this is creating a receipt here against the purchase order. It goes into the, so it's trying to, navigate different screens. That's basically the beauty of like, you can create good test cases if you know all the steps basically. So I was not very familiar, so I was clicking multiple tabs to find out what is the right tabs, that it all is recorded here. So it's basically dependent upon how crisp you have made your recording. So okay, apparently receipt has also been done. Let's see how it looks with the invoicing step. Probably I'm speaking a lot, so I'll shut up for a few seconds and let it do the work. All right. I'm actually thinking that it would be better if fails, because I just wanted to show you how that failure looks. But yeah, but that's fine. Let's see what happens if it fails or not fails. It actually depends upon how have you written the test instructions. Sometimes it shows as failed, but what you actually wanted out of that test case has already happened. That means that you had to write that test case differently. It could be vice versa as well, that it is showing as passed, but it actually should have been failed. So I think in this case it has been successful, if I'm feeling it all right. Let's see if it's a tick or a cross. Wait for a few more seconds. So it's a tick as well. So that's also passed. Yeah, so it did not fail. But that's fine. I can still show you the failure messaging, because every time, by the way, you run this test case, that a separate run transaction is created, if that makes sense. Like if there is a test case and you run it 10 times, it creates 10 run records, and you can always go back to the previous history when that particular test case was run, and if it was failed, if it was passed, so you can see all that history as well. In my case, there were a few times when I think the last test case was failed, so I have the history as well. So I'll show you. Okay, so I will stop this screen, I guess, and I will go into my Azure DevOps screen, where basically it will show the portal part of it. Just give me a moment. Okay. Okay, I'm hoping that my browser is shown. So let me go into the Azure DevOps. I've saved that somewhere in my favorites. Okay, so this is how the Azure DevOps, when you land into it for the first time, looks, the project part of it. If you're not familiar, I can just give you a very quick rundown. Uh, so in Azure DevOps, we have a concept of an organization, and then under that organization there are projects, and under projects, whatever else comes into that project basically comes in. So I'm in a project already. If you're on the organization page, it looks like this. So I just have one project, so I was already into it before. So this is how, when you're in the project, this is how it looks. By default, you land into this overview tab. But as I said before, that you're not concerned about the overview tab, you're concerned about this test plan tab. So you will click on test plans. And within test plans, as I showed to you before, that we can have different levels of organizing your test cases into various different ways. Like, I mean, if I give you examples, you could have test cases divided per per business process you want to be following. Like, for example, you could have test cases for your purchasing team. You could have test cases for your, fixed asset management team. You could have test cases for your system admin team, or whatever. What I'm trying to say is that you can divide them into your business processes, distribution wise, distribution, classification. You could be doing that on the system functionality basis or system feature basis. You could be doing that on the user basis as well. So there could be different ways of dividing how you want to divide the test cases actually, right? So again, that's not the point. That's your hierarchy. But all I'm trying to say and show here is that system allows you to have different test plans. For example, if I show you, so right now there are only two test plans created here, right? So that's the root level for your test case, test plan module, which is where everything is managed. But if I go into this test plan one, in test plan one, I've got two suites here, and you could be creating more suites as well. For example, if I go into this three dots and I can say new suite, static suite, I'll explain what static suite and what other suites are. I will say new, or you can say domain test suite 3, right? And I create that. So you can create that as well. And then you can, let's say if you want to create a sub level into that as well. So you can say a new suite, suite 3.1, right? And then within 3.1, you can have another as well. So you can say suite 3.1.1, right? So you can have as many level of hierarchies as you want, and you want to like, which helps you organize your test cases better. That was the point I was trying to make. We'll go to the main level which we were talking about. So right now, as all of them are showing past, and by the way, also to for your point, for your reference, that when you click on this, there are three tabs here which are shown, right? So there is a define tab where the same test cases are shown, but if you double click them, it will actually show you that the instruction which I showed you in the snapshot as well. That's the definition phase of those test cases. But if you're not concerned about that right now, you're more concerned about what happened with the results. So you go into this execute tab basically. And this is where you see the results of them. For example, if I double click any of them, it will show me that I have run this test case at least 4 times. 2 times on Friday, and then 40 minutes ago, and then 8 minutes ago. 8 minutes ago is the demo one, right? And then if I further go into, let's say, the last one, and I double click this, it will open a new screen and it will show me the details of my run, right? So I mean, these are the details. It has a few things recorded when I ran that test case because it was all failed. So it was all passed. So it doesn't have much, meaty details here. As you can see, all the steps which were part of this test case, step from 1 to 15 or 16, were all passed, and this is why you're seeing a tick against them, right? So this was this was not a failure. So let's look at how the failure looks like, right? So if I close this one, and I think if I remember correctly, the invoice PO1 was failed at least once. So yeah, it was failed twice at least. So if I go into this failure one, so yeah, so it has captured the error messaging which came in the middle when when that test case would have been running and it was failed. So it has captured a few error messaging. We will try to decode that later, a little bit technical for this session. And it has also captured here that it was running all okay till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. And at the step 15, it actually ran into the problem, right? Well, it could have been any step, by the way. I mean, you could have this failing on the step 8 as well. That doesn't make a difference. Any step in this test case which is recorded as a thing to be done, and it fails, and it basically will stop at that point and will mark that test case as a failure. So yeah, that's how it is recording that in a detailed level. Um, it could be a separate session, but I mean, this is too detailed, right? What you can also do, if I just come back, if I just come out of this, is to also run some holistic reporting on how you are going with your overall test case runs, right? Like, let's say in this case, all of them are passed, but you could create some custom dashboards to say that I've got 20 test cases for purchasing team. I've got 50 test cases for the GL team. I've got 20 test cases for fixed asset team. So how about the overall result? So it can show you some statistics on a holistic level as a dashboard level as well. Some of them are standard here. Let me show you a few. These are some standard dashboards in Azure DevOps, but sometimes I felt that does not fully. I mean, it gives you some overview. I mean, it gives you some like holistic overview here, test plan wise, and it, you can change the test plan to see the other one. I guess other one doesn't have anything running, so it will not show you anything. So this is the main test plan you're using. It shows you some numbers here as well. The domain test suite tool, which is the one which we ran, it actually passed 100% time. So yeah, again, these are all handy, but I felt that there could be even better reporting coming out of this out of the box system. So there is a thing called, I've not built it here right now, but there is a thing called chart here, right? So if you configure these charts, which I've not configured here, um, could be as later demo, you could be actually reporting as per your need as well. All right, I think it's getting a little bit further. So that was the main, you can say, demo of the predefined test case. Right now, we will go into the second part of the demo, which was essentially about creating a test case. Right? That I will actually go into a finance and operation environment. This is the environment, by the way, I used. Might ask me for the authentication. Okay, it has already authenticated. So we will go into that next part where we actually record a new test case. I think we will try to do the similar job. We will record a create PO and confirm PO, and that is what we will just use. Okay, so as I said before, that we have to start the things by going into the task recorder, right? So we need to be using the task recorder for that. It is always recommended that whenever you're doing a task recording, especially for the RSAT, which is the Regression Suite Automation Tool, you start your recording by going into the home page. I think you will realize that later, but yeah, let's just take that as a recommendation. You always go to the home page and then you start the task recording. So we'll go into this and we will go task recorder and you will say create recording. In the create recording, I can name it something 27 Fab just for identification. Create. Name it a number is as well. 27 create PO. Start. So the recording has started. Let's go into some of the menus. There are multiple ways to go to the PO steps, but I will go this way. Accounts payable, all purchase orders. I'll just straight away click new. You see here on the right side, it has started to record my instructions. I'll select a vendor. Probably I select the one which I used the previous time. Air cargo. Select this one. I think this one is okay. Currency. Yeah, I just wanted to also make a point that whenever within within the test case there is something appears as a part of your, like as an outcome of your action, and you validate that it should happen all the time. Okay, making it too complex. For example, if you want to see the USD in all cases when you select this particular vendor, so basically it's almost like you want to validate if the USD population is coming or not coming. If it is not appearing as USD here, so you want to fail this test case. Let's say if this is the problem, this is the scenario. So what you can do, you can just right click here and go to task recorder and say validate current value. So if I click that, what it will do as a part of the task recording, it will record that step as a validation, basically, that it will fail the test case if this value is not USD, right? So I'll click on that. So now it has recorded this, validate the value of currency is USD. I'll input some site here as well. I'll input some warehouse here as well. I mean, doesn't make a good difference. I mean, huge difference, by the way. I click OK. Now we will create a line. Okay, so the line, we'll select an item. Probably I'll use the same one which I used before, the camera. And then we will put some, by default it is quantity 1. I will put that as 10. And also after putting that as 10, I want to also, this is where I'm basically making it a variable that next time uh, when somebody wants to run this test case, I just parameterize this value that I can allow him to just input another quantity if they want, and then do that without recording the full test case. So I'll go task recorder and click copy. So that basically makes this thing as a variable. So it has already made that variable. Um, I think that's good enough for now. I will click save. Okay, so I think the test case has been saved. One other thing which we need to do, and this is where the connection, the stitching part of this test case with the other test case will come in. We need to somehow pick this value because we will use this as a variable for the next test case. Um, the better way is to go into any field on this form which shows this value only, not the name, etc. Because this top one is showing the name as well. So I will not click on that. I will go to the header, and then I will go to this field because this is showing me the real value. So I will also copy this as well. Copy. So that has now copied this as a variable. Uh, and we will basically use that for connecting this with the next one. So anyway, so I think this is the max we could do with this test case, right? So it is all done. So we will say stop. And okay, now we have got multiple options to save this recording. If you're familiar with the task recording, task recorder features, you might be using this export as Word format before, because this is how you just export the whole thing and it creates a decent looking document as a instruction, right? But we are not going to do that. We are going to save this as a developer recording because this saves the whole thing as a XML file, which is what you want in your creating the in your RSAT process. I mean, by the way, all the other steps on the top, saving this to PC and saving to else lifecycle services, these were the old ones which we used to use before, but now not anymore. We will just save that as a developer recording. Okay. So it has already saved that as a developer recording. I'll just leave it here, and because we don't need to go into that right now, we will record the next test case. And we will go to the main menu and we will create a recording. Oh, actually, again, I was doing the same mistake which I was talking about not doing. Always go to the home page before, because that's an easy mistake. Everybody makes that, but then it creates a lot of problem later on. So go to the home page, now click create recording. And this one will be 27 Feb. To what is that? Confirm PO, right? That will be the name of it. Now we'll go to the same thing. We'll go to the purchase order page. And at this step, we will actually try to search for the PO which we created. If I remember correctly, there were 4 zeros, then 16, something like 1619, I guess, or maybe 1620. Okay, there was no 20. Maybe there was 19. Yeah. So you see, a few additional steps have been recorded, but don't worry about that. This is where actually, in actual, when the system will do it, this value will not be a hard-coded value. This will come from a variable, which was the previous test case's output, right? So for that, we just say paste. So, but again, it does not paste anything right now. It just records that some like this. Anyway, so it is now searched, and we will go into this view itself. So if you see right now, the status of the purchase order is approved, right? What we need to do is to confirm this PO, right? So, I mean, that one is a very simple test case. We will go into the purchase tab and click confirm. We'll start the confirmation process. And now it is confirmed. Now you can see the status has changed to confirm. And well, if you're a tester and you're testing this confirmation step, I think as a human, you will look at this field and you will see that, whether this has changed to confirmed or not, right? So this is what the similar thing you want the system to also do as well. Because, okay, imagine, just a fun fact. So you're kind of training a robot here, right? So you need to be very specific with very specific things. You cannot take anything for granted here. You need to be specifically telling that when you're running this tool, this is something you will input in this way, and this is something you will have to validate in this way. Otherwise, it will not produce the result as how you want. So I'll right click on that and say task recorder, validate. Sorry, validate and current value. Yeah. So again, so what I've done here, so I've in this test case, unless this status has not changed to confirmed, I've almost set to it that don't pass the test case, and you can have additional validation added as well. I mean, you can say that, status turns to confirmed, and this field shows this, and that field shows that, and then I will confirm that. So you can all do that. I mean, just consider this as you, but you need to train it. You need to tell it very specifically that what exactly you want to see, what you want to validate, and then you record that as a part of the instruction, and then it will just run that based on your instruction. So yeah, I think that's all you wanted on this one, and you will just stop it here. Do the same thing, save as developer recording, and it has now recorded, right? So now I will stop this share, and I'll go back to my uh, my RSAT screen. Where is that? Okay, so that's my RSAT screen, right? So what I'm going to do here, by the way, I will, as if you remember, I've created an additional folder, and in the Azure DevOps, it is not showing here because I haven't loaded it again, right? So I will load it again. It will show me 3 folders. I'll go into this folder. I'll not go into the further inside. I'll just go into the root one. And within root one, I'll say new test case, right? New test case. Okay, the trick here is that the test case which you have created over there, you just need to name it exactly same. Sorry, I'm doing the same mistake. 27 Feb. 1 create PO, and then you click add. You go to your downloads or wherever those being downloaded. Click here, and then save. And let it do some work here. Okay, by default, it is valid as cross. Don't worry about that. Do the same thing with the other one. 27 Feb to confirm PO. And then select that XML file which was created and click save. Okay, so now both of them are like imported here, but it is not ready yet, right? Because if you notice, previous ones were showing a parameter file here, a path here. It is not showing anything. So what you need to do for the new test cases which you're creating, and by the way, just for your reference, these are all already created in Azure DevOps as well, but not fully available, right? So the same thing which you're doing, because this tool is connected to your Azure DevOps, the same thing is being done over there as well. So, okay, you check all of them, and then you say go to this tab, go menu, and say generate test execution, which is the file which actually runs on your PC, and the parameter file. Parameter file is the Excel file which I spoke about before. So you click this and let it do its job. It will create a few files, and actually I'll show you those files as well. Okay, so now both of the parameter files are created. Okay, where does those created are created? I mean, in this settings menu, that you have a working drive set up here, right? So this is where it gets created. So I'll go into that folder. I'll probably stop my share again to show you the folder. So this is that folder RSAT, right? So if you notice, there are like a couple of test cases created at the bottom. You can see the date here as well. These are the 2 which are created today. So if you go into 27 and go into attachments folder, every every test case has those 2 folders or 3 folders in the execution case. If already executed. So you go to this XLSX file, open that. That's your parameter file, which I was talking about. So that's the Excel file which I was talking about, right? So it might be a little bit small for you, but you cannot do much. Make it bigger. What you need to do, and actually, let me just first show you. So this is the place where you have inputted all the values, right? And you have made them a variable. For example, the time when you want to run this, let's say you want to change that 10 to 20. So you can do that here and you can save it like this. Just Control S and save in the file. But we need to do one important step here, that we need to use the outcome of this test case and put that as an input of the next test case, right? So that it works better. So what we need to do, we go to General tab, and we have got 2 variables saved. One was the quantity variable, as you can see, purchase order grid. It's not, doesn't say quantity. Maybe I've inputted the wrong value, but I think I'm after this one, right? So you copy this value, come out of this test case, and go to the next test case, and go to do the same thing and go into that test cases parameter file, the confirm PO test case file, and go to the test case steps. And the place where it was hard coding a value, you basically paste the value paste the value of the variable which you copied from there, right? Like this. So now basically it has now you will save it. So what it has done, it has actually connected the end of that test case to the start of this test case, right? So yeah, so it is now connected, right? So that's all you need to do. Just save this variable here, close it, and we will. I mean, I think that's all we wanted here. So we will just go back into the screen again and then run the tool and see how it looks like. So we are here now, and we will just run the tool now. Click run. I think ideally the ID should be 00004 zeros, I mean, and 1620. And it should automatically pass that into the next test case as well. If it does, means the connection part of it is working. I'm actually keeping my hands free just to show you that this is all just joking. I'm just saying that was all being done automatically. Okay. Okay, this one is passed. Yeah, it is picking 20, so means that it is right. The connection part is working. This also means that next time, I mean, we can try to run it again, but this also means that next time you run the same suite, it will pick 21, and you did not input 21 anywhere in the scripting, right? So it basically pick that as a variable. All right, this is also passed. So I think, yeah, this is the same thing because it is passed. Now you can go into your Azure DevOps and see if it also shows the same result. Not really needed, but I can just show you very quickly. Yeah, so this is your Azure DevOps. Go into your Azure DevOps and find out Uh, this one, it will show you these two. And if you want to see the results, I mean, the same thing, it is passed, right? So I think that's all understood. I'll stop my share because I can see the clock as well. Touch a few other topics which I wanted to touch upon. Um, actually, actually, because this screen is already shared, I can also touch upon a few things which I wanted to say. Um, so see, the whole thing might have looked not that complex, right? Because I've made a very simple kind of a presentation here, but the actual reality will be a little bit complex than this, right? Your test cases could have been more complex. You could have various different ways of validating how things pass or fail and various different pieces to it. And then you could have specific um, uh, difficulties between connecting the two test cases together, which you want to run in single sequence, right? So there could be advanced usages of this tool as well. So for that, we can have a separate session. And basically, I can tell you straight away, the art, basically, if I say, is how do you design the test cases? Like how do you separate one test case from another? You create an outcome of one test case and you use that into connecting to the next one. And basically, let's say you want to run a scenario which is having 5 different steps. So it is recommended that you break it as many into as many pieces as it can, because that is easy for your maintenance. Basically, this also means that next time something has been different and you want to update the test case, rather than updating the whole 50-step test case, you if you have 10 test cases for 5 steps each, you just pick the test case which is problematic, which you want to change, and you just pick that and you just change that value and then connect that back into that puzzle. It will work perfectly. But if you have created like 50 steps test cases, like big test cases, complex test cases, and anything has changed, so you will need to rerun the whole thing and worrying about how to make it perfect. So it will be almost like a nightmare. Again, that's an advanced topic, but I wanted to kind of talk about that. And the game basically played between how optimum you record your task recordings and how better you play with these features we have in this parameter file. If you kind of ace this game, I think that's all you want to be writing good regression test suite uh, uh, cases. Anyway, let me go back to my presentation. Okay, I'm not sure if you really want to discuss these topics, but you might be wondering that what it takes, like how do you use this tool and how can you install that on your PC and try it out, right? So let me just tell you that desktop tool is a free tool. You can just I'll just, as a part of this demo, I'll provide you a link and you just download that link, and you can just use that and download that tool, install that on your PC. So that tool is not a worry. It's a free tool. But it works in combination with Azure DevOps, right? So in Azure DevOps, some of the people have the privilege already of that test plan module because they have got a higher license already, which is called Visual Studio subscriber license. But some of the people might not have the license, right? So the people which don't have the license using the Visual Studio subscriber, they will need to either have this basic plan license, which also comes as free. 5 of the users come free. If you already are having those licenses, so you can use them, or basic plus test plan. Basic plus test plan is an expensive one. It's 52 AUD per month sort of a thing, and this one is a very cheap one. It's a 6 user per month. But the difference is that basic plan users just can only run the test cases and that's it. They cannot define the test cases. They cannot write the test cases. And I think if I'm not wrong, they're not able to fully access all the reports which you have in the Azure DevOps. I mean, their role is basically to be able to run the test cases, and that's it. And the basic plus test plan license is a basically full license for test plan module. Means that if you have that, basically you have everything from the basic, but also you can write. And I mean, whatever we did, we can write more test cases. You can add to the test case repository. You can be creating more reports, and you can be creating any analytics, exporting out of the Azure DevOps, etc. I think from my perspective, we still can optimize the usage of these licenses by using basic plan for a few things. If we as a like it could be like this that we give this test plan license to few people, like two or three, four people, and then most of the people who are just responsible for running the test cases, they just use the basic plan. I mean, something of that sort can be done. But again, that's a later topic. But I just wanted to mention that this is how it is.
All right, so that was the end of the video. I hope you liked it. By the way, just want to add that I understand and appreciate the fact that this video, although it was a long video, but the core message of this video was about making a completely new person understand how this tool works, and also a little bit on the definition of regression testing. If you need to have more advanced overview of the topic or the usage of the tool or different use cases, I think I can make a different video for that. So yeah, I mean, I'll be making more videos if you like on this topic. So for now, that was it. I hope you liked it. If you want to leave any feedback, it's more than welcome. I'll be coming back with more Microsoft related videos, or even actually, who knows, some other surrounding technologies as well. Until then, bye bye.